FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Today's show is brought to you by Blue Sky Uranium Corporation. Blue Sky has first mover advantage in Argentina in the world's newest uranium and vanadium district. With an existing near-surface deposit that's open for expansion, Blue Sky also controls a massive district-scale land package with mineralization along a 145-kilometer-long trend. Blue Sky possesses tremendous exploration upside and is an excellent leverage play on rising uranium and vanadium prices. The company is run by a best-in-class management and technical team with proven exploration and development success in Argentina. Blue Sky Uranium trades under the ticker symbol BSK on the Toronto Venture Exchange and as BKUCF on the OTC. For more information and to stay on top of the latest news, go to blueskyuranium.com. That's blueskyuranium.com.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's April 10th, 2019. Like I said, I'm away from sunny South Florida right now. I'm in New York City. Beautiful day in the 60s, dry. But as always, the city is noisy. So if you hear unwanted sirens in the background, brakes squealing, horns blowing, I mean, the horns just never stop blowing in this. I've been in a place called Xi'an in China where basically you're required to blow your horn anytime you get in the car and anytime you're driving. And I don't remember it being as bad as this, but the traffic is horrible. All part of Comrade de Blasio's plan. They're getting congestion pricing in, which means you'll have to pay $15 to go beneath 59th Street, I think. That's around Bloomingdale's. And it's all part of the madness to make the city as unlivable as possible. And they're succeeding beyond their wildest dreams. But regardless whether you live in New York City, you live in Florida, California, at some point you are going to want to retire. And even if it's not a traditional retirement of getting your gold watch after 30 years at the same company and then taking off for the golf course, never to lift your finger or do a stitch of work again, you know, let's face it, that type of retirement doesn't really exist anymore. Most of you boomers out there and Gen Xers who are rapidly getting up there in years, you're going to work to some extent, but you need to plan things out so you don't have to work if you don't want to or your health gets in the way. Hey, as always, please join the show, participate, email us at kl@kerrylutz.com if retirement resonates with you. So we've got Beau Henderson on with us. Beau, you are best known as the Retirement Authority, your national media resource for retirement planning. You got a special offer out there that we'll talk about towards the end, but you're the best-selling author of 9 books and top-rated radio host and writer for one of the largest financial publishing houses in the nation, and you help people put a plan in place so that you can retire, should that be your desire. So welcome to the show. So Social Security, it's not going to pay enough for you to retire, is it?
You know, the thing with Social Security, Kerry, and thank you, I'm excited to be here. The thing I run across with Social Security is that the average benefit in this country is about $1,450. Where it becomes a problem is for about 2/3 of Americans, that's over half of their retirement income. So, hey, you're in New York right now. You can imagine you can't budget a lot on $1,450 as far as lifestyle. So we need to make sure we understand the rules to get absolutely as much benefit as we're entitled to out of this Social Security.
Yeah, and Beau, it's really interesting that you mentioned that. I am almost 62, and so the thing is, obviously, I make too much money. I would pay out all of my benefits now in the form of income tax or penalty for Social Security, but I am a widower. And fact is, when I get to 66, I don't have to take my benefits. I can take my spousal benefit, widow benefit, and then I can simply wait out to 70 and get my full benefit, which will be somewhere around a third higher than it would be where I to take it at 66. There's a lot of tricks around there, around Social Security, just like that, isn't there?
Yeah, there really are. And what you just talked about, Carrie, that's a strategy, right? I had on the way to the studio this morning, I had a lady call me crying, who came to one of our workshops, and she was struggling. She's making about $1,500 a month in employment at 63 years old. She did not realize the rules around the widow benefit, just what you were talking about. She went to the Social Security office and actually got a $2,500 a month benefit that she was entitled to that she had no idea. So to go from $1,500 to $2,500 for this lady, this is life changing. And there's too many times out there, people just leave the money on the table and don't get what they're entitled to.
Yeah. And sometimes you can switch benefits. So like when I hit 70, God willing I make it, then I switch to my own benefits and I get higher. But sometimes you could do multiple switches, and depending upon your situation. Hey, when I was widowed, a long time ago, I never even thought about applying for my children's survivor benefits. And the person at the funeral home mentioned it. And, that was enough to send basically one of my kids to school. And, I saved all that money every month. They paid for all three up until they were 18 years old. But I probably would have figured this out on my own. But luckily, somebody tipped me off, so I didn't have to.
Well, the problem is you would think the one place we could get information about this would be Social Security Administration. But you call there, one, they can't give advice anyway. They could tell you how to go online and file your benefit. And also, it happens every time I do a lot of workshops around Atlanta. Every group I speak to around this topic, there's a lot of situations to where, depending on who they talk to that day, depends on what information they get. So I think for most people, Carrie, you're ahead of the curve here. I think most people, they believe that Social Security is either something you do at 62, full retirement age, which is 66 for most people, or 70. They don't realize that with all the different ways you can possibly claim it, there's over 500 possible combinations.
Yeah, there's so many permutations. I mean, I didn't even know this friend of mine passed away, but he was in his 70s and he had a child, and his child wound up getting Social Security even before he passed away, because if you're like over 72 and have a kid, the kid automatically gets Social Security benefits.
Yeah, right? We're seeing more and more of that. So if you actually pull your benefit and you still have a child that's under 18 at home, and we're seeing that more and more today as more people are having children older, your kid, you can have a spousal benefit, and your child can get a benefit until they're 18 years old.
Wow, it almost makes me want to go out and have another kid. Not really. Not really. You don't change your behavior to qualify for these benefits. You change your strategy for qualifying for them based on what's most advantageous. So if, for instance, if I'm eligible for the maximum Social Security benefit at 70 and I opt to take it at 66 rather, how much less money do I get?
You're taking a cut of about a third. So right. It's technically an 8% increase per year that you delay, those delayed retirement credits, meaning if at 66, that's going to be that full retirement benefit you see on your statement. But every year we delay, you get an 8% increase. And a lot of times the key is, people ask me, should they take it? To me, the key is, do you need that money to pay your bills or fund your lifestyle? Because if not, and unless there's some health issues or some other issues that we need to discuss, where else can we put money and guarantee an 8% increase for 4 years?
For sure. Hey, and in my case, because I got the ability to take survivor benefits at 66 and get full survivor benefits, I will get less. I probably will get about the same as if I did my retirement benefits, mine at 66, but by putting it off, I'll get somewhere almost $1,000 a month more, depending upon how the inflation rate goes and the adjustment and all that. $1,000 a month more, and yes, I could have gotten that. I would have gotten the same, and by putting it off, for 4 years and taking the survivors, I wind up really coming out ahead on this deal, especially if I live to my 90s here.
Right. So let's think about that. So say you switch at 90 and you've maxed out and it's an extra $1,000 a month, and you live from 70 to 90. That's an extra $240,000 of benefit over your life expectancy. That's real money. So
there's the instance where both spouses are, have worked, and the one spouse, the lesser earning one, could either opt at 66 to take their own benefits, or they qualify for spousal retirement benefits, right?
Yeah. So it's a spousal benefit, and we need to explain one thing with that. So if you're born on or before January 1st, 1954, you can choose to take either a restricted application. You can choose to say, hey, I want half of my spouse's benefit and I want to let mine grow, or you can choose to take yours. If you're born after that date, they kind of snuck in some changes in 2015 and kind of just real quick, and nobody really knew what had happened. If you're born after that January 1st, 1954, what happens is it's called a deemed filing, meaning if I file for my benefit, they're automatically going to give me half of the spouse's or mine, whichever is higher. You don't really choose.
Right. So whichever one's higher, so they do it. So you have no real flexibility there, but you still do have flexibility if you were to get disabled,
right,
on your 66th birthday or your 62nd for that matter, and you really can't work. You could collect your disability benefits up until your 70th birthday and then switch over, right?
Well, what would happen is at your full retirement age, if you're claiming a disability benefit, you will still get your check. It shifts to come from the Social Security retirement fund at full retirement age. So it comes from a different place, the check, but you would still continue to get that check.
Right. And then would you be able to get more though when you actually hit 70, or you get the full benefit and that's that?
It's pretty much most cases. This is one of those areas with the disability and the Social Security. It's a case by case, but in most cases it's pretty much a lateral move. It just comes from a different fund.
Hey, well, so what about in the case where you got divorced spouse? So you were married for more than 10 years to your former spouse. You hit 66 or 62 for that matter, because maybe you're not working at all. You can qualify then to take your divorced spouse benefits as well, correct?
Right. So the deal, and this is an area I see people leaving money on the table just because they don't realize they can do that. So if you were married at least 10 years and you haven't remarried, you can take a spousal benefit, which would be exactly the same as a married couple, meaning you could file and take half of your ex-spouse's benefit as long as that half is more than your benefit.
Right. As long as that's more than yours. So right. There you can really do okay. And you could have remarried, but you have to be divorced when you apply for the benefit, correct?
Correct.
Right. So there's all these little minefields here. It's kind of maddening, and you really need an advisor to help you get the most out of it, right?
Well, that the issue for me is that this all started several years ago. I sat down with a very smart businessman, mentor, friend of mine, and over lunch he said, "Beau, you know what? I feel bad. I really shafted my spouse." And I said, "Jerry, I don't know if I want to hear this story." But then he proceeded to tell me that what had happened was at 66, he reached full retirement age. He called Social Security Administration. They said, "Hey, there's no earning cap, so even though you're earning a lot of money, you might as well go ahead and take it because you can and not be penalized for taking that money early." And he did. And where he realized he shafted his spouse was because he could afford to. If he delayed to 70, it would be another, like we talked about in your scenario, Gary, it'd be about another $1,000 a month she would get if he predeceased her. And with their situation, she'll probably live 10 to 15 years beyond him. So unknowingly, by making the wrong decision and just not really knowing the rules the way we should, he probably cost his wife $100,000 to $150,000 of retirement income.
Yeah, what a shame. Well, from ignorance, not knowing how the system works. And they tell you how the system works, but unfortunately, if you're an average Joe six-pack or even Joe Chardonnay, you don't really know the difference here. Nobody is educating you out there. Nobody's telling you how to do it. What about with retirement plans themselves? So what I've come to realize is you don't want to, if you're younger, you don't want to necessarily do traditional IRA, and you don't necessarily want to do all Roth IRA. You want to, sorry about the sirens, but this is New York. So you want to kind of do a hybrid Roth and traditional IRA, because with the traditional IRA, when you hit 70 and a half, I guess it is, you're forced to take mandatory distributions, and therefore you're perhaps put into a higher tax bracket than you would be either. So if you had half in your Roth and half in your traditional, is that what you're telling people to do now, Beau?
The priority order, especially when we're talking about accumulation, right? The accumulation before the distribution that we've kind of been talking about with Social Security, is let's first go for free money. So any kind of company match, 401k, 403b match you have, get every penny of that. Then from there, I like to work on fully funding the Roth IRAs next. And the reason I like having building buckets of that tax-free money in the future is, one, it protects us from our very likely scenario that taxes will be higher down the road because of just if I could really depress us, and we could talk about the true debt in this country.
Yeah, so if you're an FSN listener, you know all about it because we talk about it all the time, hundreds of trillions of dollars that doesn't even exist. So suffice it to say, like the guy said on the woman's wedding night, where they tells a story, should I wear my suit for my audit to the IRS, or should I wear my crummy clothes? And the rabbi says, that reminds me of a story. A bride once went to a rabbi and said, Your Honor, Rabbi, I'm really nervous about my wedding night here. Should I wear my finest, garments to bed, or should I wear my crummy ones? And said, nice lingerie, crummy lingerie, it doesn't matter because you're going to get screwed. And that's what it comes down to with the IRS, right? It doesn't matter what you wear, you're gonna pay. It's going to come back. And the other piece to that too is the Roth. Why I like having those buckets. And even when we have options to do Roth 401ks and employers, because you can build those even bigger, is if we can take distributions from those sources, that doesn't count against the provisional income that determines how much of your Social Security is taxed. So another way, I've had some people that really work strategy for a 7-8 year window, and we're able to transition enough from taxable buckets to Roths tax free that we actually retired them in a 0% tax bracket, which is a really beautiful thing. Yeah, and then there's also what determines your Roth IRA is how much you're making, because when you get over a certain amount, then you can't contribute to the traditional IRA anyway. Over 100,000, I think it is, then it gets phased out. Do I have that right? It is phased out, but there's still a backdoor Roth IRA, and what that is you can contribute, even if your income doesn't allow it, you can contribute to a non-deductible regular IRA that then can be converted to a Roth. So it's an extra step, but there still is kind of a little loophole in the system to where you could still kind of get a Roth funded. You just got to take that extra step. I see. So you set up a traditional that's non-deductible, and then you convert it to a Roth. I have that right? Right. That's it. A lot of tricks here that you need to know about. Obviously, you've written a lot of books on this. You're passionate about it, Beau. What was it that set you down this path? Because you're not that close to retirement, as far as I can tell. Yeah. I'm in my 40s now, but I started this business in my early 20s, believe it or not. And what started, I graduated from the University of Georgia and was heading to graduate school to be a psychologist, or so I thought. And that period of time, my father passed away at 49 years old, unexpectedly, and I went home to help Mom with his business and some real estate and some things there. And I immersed myself in these topics of tax and estate planning and all that. And I realized that something that really struck a chord with me is I was learning that if there's not somebody that'll step up and help people through these transitions and situations that life throws at us, there's 10 people that'll show up and take advantage of the situation. So it really gave me a different track in life. And then I'm still helping people like I always wanted to do with the counseling psychology. Mm-hmm. But what's really funny, Carrie, is that the longer I do this, the more
my passion for behavior actually helps the way I do this business, because so much of this, one side of it's tactical, it's the rules and the spreadsheets and the numbers working. And then the other, the holistic part of it is how does that interact with the individual, the person, our patterns, our beliefs, and all the things that makes us people and not spreadsheets.
Yeah, and it's so true. We tend to take a very analytical, logical approach until it's us. All of a sudden, your emotions are involved. You have to face things you don't want to face, like who you leave your money to and what happens if something happens, all these things. And life is a lot more complicated than a spreadsheet. Like you said, your life is a lot more than just a spreadsheet. And that's why you got to treat it accordingly. So what I'm curious about is there are new opportunities in the latest tax bill. I realize it's not retirement based, but it could be the use of self-directed IRAs and such. But under the new tax law, you've got bonus depreciation when you buy new capital equipment, and that applies to real estate as well. So when you buy a piece of property, even if it's pre-owned, for income purposes, you can do things like segregation cost segregation study, and you can wind up saving fortunes on your taxes just with a little planning. I mean, so much, Beau, is like that, isn't it?
It all, and with all this, with the finance, retirement, all across the board, it truly is knowledge is power. The depreciation of the real estate you just described, so many people might just sell a piece of property and never really understand, or hold a piece of property, not really understand how to utilize it. So the message I really have is I truly appreciate the trust people have in me when they trust me with their strategies and the things we do. But I want people to understand why they're doing what they're doing and feel confident in it, because that way they're actually better for having crossed our paths or having met us than them just trusting me to do the right thing. Let's actually learn something together so that you're becoming a better investor, or you're becoming a better able to navigate retirement on your own. And then you can choose to build your team or somebody like me to help you navigate that, be that third party to keep you on track if you choose to.
And that is a great point, Beau. In this life, you need a team, even if you're not earning a huge amount, because there's a good possibility eventually, if you do things right, you're going to accumulate a large amount of assets. So your team is a financial planner, your accountant, your lawyer, and probably other people, insurance person, because you got to plan for unintended eventualities, things that can happen, risks that occur, that the only way to protect yourself from them is through insurance. So you need this team of people. And I assume that's something that you talk about a lot, building that trusted team. It's really a challenge because, look, I'm a former attorney, 30 years. So I can pretty much talk to most attorneys and know if they're on the ball or not for a period of time. But what I understand, and it's the same thing with doctors, it's like a layperson really doesn't know what makes a good doctor. You think because the guy's got a good bedside manner, he's a great doctor? Wrong. He might have killed his last 5 patients. You have no idea. Whereas a peer or colleague of his is in a much better position to help you make that judgment. It's the same thing with professionals. So what do you tell people when it comes to building your team, Beau?
Yeah, I think the key, and this was a lesson learned the hard way when I was starting building my business, and I was involved with real estate pretty heavily at the time. I remember thinking that the advice my accountant gave me was tax advice. My attorney gave me liability advice, and I had 3 or 4 people advising me, but they were all from different perspectives. So I still, at the end of the day, left in the middle to sort it out and figure it out. So one of the things I try to facilitate for clients is, whether there's somebody we already work with or working with their existing people, is how about we build a team for you that actually communicates with each other? And so your accountant knows what's going on with your estate planning attorney, and they understand with your financial advisor and your insurance guy what's going on. And that's been one of the biggest things is really let's treat that as a team that communicates, and they come together and they know the situation in a way that you're getting some true advice and not just advice in a vacuum, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's really important. Great thing. Hey, So people want to find out more about you, Beau. They want to connect with you on the web. How do you do that?
Yeah, the best way to find out more about articles, podcasts, things we do, just getting out this retirement information is RichLifeAdvisors.com. It's RichLifeAdvisors.com. All
right, RichLifeAdvisors.com. As always, you will see a link to Beau's site in the show notes to this interview. Make sure you go over to FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com, sign up for a newsletter, Twitter feeds at Kerry Lutz, Facebook page, Financial Survival Network. You're either listening to this on a podcast platform or you are watching on YouTube. Either way, if you subscribe, like, and share, it really helps me a lot when you do it. And you help get the message out from people like Beau, whose ideas are desperately needed because there's just such a shocking state of financial literacy in the United States now. And really, the U.S. is the best of all the countries because we've been at it the longest. But this is a global phenomena. That's why we have a rise of socialism and all of these social programs to make up for what people failed to do yourself. Right. Anyway, Beau, it's been a total pleasure. So please like, share, subscribe. And Beau, we'll definitely talk to you again.
Hey, Kerry, had a blast. Thanks.
Me too.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.